Hello everyone, this is Charlotte and this is a podcast called Chatting in Cars. It's where I talk about random topics while I drive to work. It's a bit of a horrible day today, coming into autumn finally. So I'm not sure how the lighting's going to go. You might see me, you might not see me. There's a disclaimer at the start of this podcast because I do talk about sensitive topics and I do swear a lot, quite a bit. I don't like to restrict myself language-wise because I feel it's inauthentic and it's not expressive. And when we start curtailing our natural urges, if only through expression, it tends to... What are you doing? Oh, it's one of those useful men. It tends to, it affects the meaning of what we're trying to get across. So I'm not going to curb a load of shit just because someone has, qualms about particular noises. The topic for today is... Oh, it is blustery out here. Topic for today is betrayal, which too many crap holes. People coming out of driveways. Betrayal is one of the possibly the cruelest things someone can do to someone. It's not just a case of throwing someone under the bus. There's a whole bunch of psychological shit that goes along with betrayal. And as someone who's had it done to them quite a bit, it does leave its mark. A lot of my trust issues come from... What are you doing? Idiot plumbers. A lot of my trust issues come from just generally, trusting the wrong people and then them proving that you can't. And it's part of growing up because, when you're a young kid, you're quite naive and you think everybody just gets along and it's going to be okay and nobody's going to fight and nobody's going to... Well, if you do fight, it's usually over something menial. But at the same time, you're like, if I'm nice... I was taught if I'm nice, then they'll be nice, right? Which is not always the truth. Some people are quite underhanded. They want to take advantage of other people, and so they will be nice up until a point where they can get to a position where they can exploit them, and then comes the betrayal, which is usually very eye-opening and very soul-crushing. And you never thought that this person was capable of it, so it leaves such a huge scarring on your psyche, I guess, that this person who you possibly put on a pedestal, because knowing me, I always put people on pedestals, it's ridiculous, was actually capable of doing these things to you. It's not just a case of having a bad breakup, it's a case of, for example, someone being married to someone, for example, 16 years, and then having them completely fuck up your life. And you assume that for 16 years you knew them, what kind of a person they were and what they were about. You sacrificed yourself and your life and your time and your resources just to try and give this person something. And then in the end, it just crumbles, and that's your sort of tower moment, the ultimate betrayal, which is Seven of Swords reverse, if you're looking at tarot terms. I pulled that card this morning for a random reading. That was pretty cool. But it was someone coming out of betrayal, so that's a really nice side of things. I was quite happy for them. Because betrayal's not nice. It's a very unpleasant experience. You don't want to believe that this person is that much of a fuckwit or a dickhole. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you be that fucking nasty? And usually it's ego-based. Betrayal usually comes from ego. I've had enough betrayals to have my own particular form of villain backstory. It's like, this is my origin story. Betrayed by my parents, betrayed by my ex-husband, betrayed by my ex-boyfriend. It's like, I should be a villain by now. I'm just not. I could be, but I'm just not. I just know. It just doesn't seem that right. We always have free choice, so you have a choice to betray someone or not. It's usually because people are chasing their ego and they think, I can do this because I'm better than everyone, or I can do this because I get something out of it and I need to come first and fuck everyone else. That me-centric mindset, which is not cohesive to any kind of community setting, because we need to consider everybody in the fucking group. I think honestly, and I still keep saying things like, I think it comes from the 80s generation, the people who came to peak in the 80s generation, which were the boomers, pretty much. But they rely heavily on... What are you doing, strange old man? He's trying to get run over. But it's the when they really dug into the yuppie greed side of things in westernized culture. And it was me first, fuck everyone else. I need to get as much money and wealth as possible to prove that I am this much of a valuable person. That's just one facet of betrayal. It's putting me first, and it's spread into different aspects of the society psyche. Not just with money, but also with relationships, with interacting with others. It just spread. It just became this horrible, me-centric bullshit act, which completely inconducive to any kind of, existing amongst other people. This was made worse, of course, by the Facebook generation. TikTokers with that, promotion of narcissism, where they have to be the center of the universe and put on a platform, even though there's 8 billion people in the world. Why do we need to see this person's face? I don't know. It's like, because it's me. I'm a bit of a hypocrite at this point because I'm doing the same thing with this. But this isn't about me. This is more about general discussion about weird shit that I've seen and experienced. I'm not doing this for updates. Not really, because I know there's about 4 people watching. But it's the case of, in society, the westernized society in particular, rather than work on the collective, which is the Eastern society, sort of China, collectivized culture sort of thing. We've promoted an individualist culture where people now have their ego pushed forward, where they can only see them from a first person perspective, and a lot of people or other people's feelings and considerations are just not being met, because it doesn't, people are sitting there thinking, well, it's not me, I don't give a fuck. Which is cruel in itself, because it also separates yourself from your peers and makes you think, I don't have to concern myself with anyone else's problems because this is me, and if it doesn't affect me, fuck you, I don't care. It's a very cold kind of world we're creating. I got assaulted in 2008. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd gone for a walk, and I do remember screaming out help and things like rape, and because I was convinced this guy was going to get me on the floor and do some shit. But at 2 o'clock in the morning, the deaf still darkness in a suburban neighborhood, you're bound to have heard something, right? But no one came to help. And later I sort of reasoned it out. It's the mindset. It's got to be the mindset that it's not my business, so I'm not going to get involved. This is why people get attacked on things like buses and trains and things. I've watched some horrible videos on YouTube where people just aren't protected because someone will turn around and say, well, it's not my business, I'm not getting involved. But if it's something that's genuinely wrong, I've seen footage of women getting raped on trains and things like that. I'm sitting there going, why is no one fucking doing something? But they'll just sit there and allow it because it's not me and it doesn't affect me, so why should I get involved? And you sit there and think, you sick fucks. And it's that kind of, it's, in a sense, it's a betrayal of your own species to not get involved and protect someone who's really getting fucked over. Geez, that's a long line. By someone in such a public sphere as well. You'd get involved, wouldn't you? But that's just one instance of the selfish society we've created, where everybody's just a self-promoting individual in their own right and fuck everyone else. The selfishness is what's going to undermine the community in itself, because nobody's helping anyone anymore. Nobody wants to help. It's even a cost of living crisis. There is a stress for people not having enough resources, but at the same time, if you've ever grown up in poverty, you would know that if you had something, you shared something. Sharing was a large part of my childhood because we just didn't have enough. To be not sharing is just horrible. It's nasty, selfish, and it was not promoted. I don't know if that's a rich person thing or a selfish person thing that's come into the community, onto the stage. But it's not working together to provide any kind of safe cohesion in the environment. And that's how you cultivate a culture of betrayal, because people think they're the only one that matters and fuck everyone else. So it's that me first mindset and opportunist, which has been, compounded by things like a lot of social pressures, like cost of living crisis, political wars, generally people being nasty because they're all thinking I'm going to do me first and fuck everyone else. And that includes like a ripple effect into relationships and things like that, where people get fucked over because I'm going to do for me first emotionally. I'm going to use this person for whatever I want them to, and then I'm going to fuck them off, regardless of whether I'm doing damage to them or not. And of course, that person, which is now traumatized, then spreads it to the next person, like some kind of fucking disease. No one's taking the time to stop and think this is actually painful for someone because it's not me and it's not affecting me, and fuck everyone else. When in a sense, though, it is, like, particularly with relationships, it is you that was affected, but they just don't want to admit that it affected them, which I find really weird. It's like it's living in a state of self-denial, or maybe just putting it off, or maybe they're afraid to deal with the fact that they've created these scenarios, and it might pose them as the bad person. You know, it's just strange, I find. Having faced a lot of betrayal in my life, like, my parents were my first source of betrayal, and I do crap on about them. But at the same time, their role as a parent was to provide for me socially, emotionally, psychologically, financially. These are my first means of support. I should have had a good foundation and a nurturing environment so I could have grown to develop to become a stable person. Now, I know mentally I'm fucked in the head. I know. Besides the underlying tones of autism, I know that I've already got a predisposition for a lot of baggage. Not being able to rely on people. Like, it's not just a case of I don't trust people anymore, it's a case of I won't actively go out and look for help. I just won't. Because I've got a strong sense it's not really there. And it sounds horrible and morbid. I mean, it makes you incredibly independent and you can rely on yourself at any fucking moment, but at the same time, you're like, I'm just not going to bother. Now, if everybody's been conditioned to believe that they're not going to go look for help, we're all assuming that everybody's okay, which is bullshit. Which is why, you know, we get the Are You Okay Day, which is a mental health day, and they're encouraging people to ask, you know, more than once, more than twice, because people just won't admit that they need help, which is a bit insane, because we're all different, we all come from different parts of life. Nobody has stable mental capabilities. If they do say they do, it's usually bullshit. So it's like, I can't believe that, you know, we would exist in a culture that promotes that kind of isolation from the outer community. Now, I've got a pre-underlying condition with autism, is that you're happy in isolation. So I'm a bit biased on that account, but from what I've seen and heard, and, you know, they've tried to socialize into me, it's like we're supposed to be building connections with people. And I don't mind going and looking for these connections with people, which is only made harder by those, you know, traumatized fucks that keep trying to fuck each other over. And other people around them, because I've been hurt, so I'm going to make someone else hurt because it makes me feel better about myself. And that way we've normalized this behavior of fucking each other over because that's the way we do it now. I don't agree with it. I don't think you should be spreading that disease of betrayal, because it has a knock-on effect where inevitably it fucks you over in the end, because it's like the boy who cried wolf. You go around fucking people over, and eventually when you need help, they're not going to help you because they've turned around and said, well, you keep hurting people. I don't believe that you're actually hurt and you need help, so I'm just going to leave you to it. So, you know, there's a few people I can think of that are going to be facing that. Ooh, we're getting strong and westerlies at this point. They're going to be facing that dilemma in the future. I mean, how many people can you fuck over and betray and be nasty to before they actually catch on and say, I'm not going to help you because you're a nasty, horrible person? It's like, I'm tired of giving you chances to do the right thing, and you know, it's logical if you look at it that way. I mean, everybody wants to stand on the whole forgive and forget shit, but there's only so many times you can actually forgive and forget before you just recognize a pattern and you go, wait a minute, this arsehole's going to keep doing this whilst I keep forgiving and forgetting. It's like, no, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to reassess the situation and actually get clarity on it, because this ain't good for us or me at this point, which in itself is slightly selfish, but at the same time it's a selfish in a way that it's a protective selfish. We all want to be the nice guy that looks after each other. I mean, half of us probably got like savior complexes where we look at the weak, the vulnerable, and we say, I can help you. And that's part of the cultural thing in Western society, is support for the underdog, particularly in Australia. We all look at the person who's struggling, the Aussie battler, and we say, how can I make their life easier and promote their growth and recovery, and that's part of Australian culture. I don't know about American or British culture. I think with British culture it's more of a cynic kind of, well, that was dumb, why'd you do that? I could be wrong. But at the same time, it's like, it's ingrained in us to want to help people. It's, even if you're looking at it from like a Judeo-Christian kind of, we need to help, it's the Christian thing to do, or, you know, Zoroastrianism, kind words, kind deeds, kind, you know, everything like that. We're looking for the promotion of positivity around us in order to sort of reach for the light and enlightenment and things like that. But at the same time, it's like, at what point do you draw the line where you say no amount of sprinkling glitter on this turd is going to make it actually not a turd? What do they used to say in the Bible is you can't cast your pearls before the swine because it'll turn on it and crush them. There's no point wasting good intentions and behaviors on people who cannot see the value of them, or refuse to, or look at that and go, they're nice pearls. If I keep pretending like I've changed, or if I you know, pretend that I'm remorseful, I might get some more pearls. You know, it's a weird analogy maybe, but at the same time, it's a case of, where do you draw the line? Like I got divorced 4 years ago, roughly 4 years ago. I haven't really been keeping track. I think it was 4 years ago. I lose track. I have come to the grips of, that was a life I have led. It is now done. It is dead and it's gone. I've come to grips with that because I know I could never go back. The lifestyle is irrelevant at this point. The family I was attached to, my ex-husband's family, is just ugh, except for his younger brother, he was a nice guy, so he was the anomaly in that family. I come to grips that you could never go back to that setting. I would never comfortably, I'm not the same person that would sit in that setting and be fine with the way shit moved. I would find it incredibly cramped, painful and horrible, with particular reference to how my ex-husband would treat me. And the reason I bring this up is because on, I think it was Saturday, I saw my ex-mother-in-law at the local big market. It's like a farmer's market. And she was there with a young girl, about my age. I say young, nearly 40. And this was a very clean-cut, very demure girl. And I'm sitting there thinking, now either this is my ex-brother-in-law's girlfriend or my replacement. And I thought, well, she's nice, she's looking clean, she's looking submissive, as my ex-husband would have liked. He likes them submissive, not questioning anything, clean cut and not, you know, standing up for themselves. That was his power trip. He really didn't like me when we got to the last couple of months of the relationship, because I started standing up for myself, and I think I scared the fuck out of him, quite frankly. Because it had been 16 years of submissive, yes sir, no sir, bullshit. Near enough. I didn't call him sir, because, you know, I don't. But at the same time, it was very vanilla. That's what came to mind when I looked at her. I went, you're very vanilla. It's like, yeah. Now this is my ex-husband, who is the kind of guy who, it's a bit personal, but you know, he's the kind of guy that likes missionary sex, post shower 8 p.m. and that's it, and he goes once and that's it. It's like, yes, you're very vanilla. So in a sense, looking at her, I'm sitting there going, you're not fiery at all, you're very submissive, this could work for him. Hence the reason I don't think I was a match for him at all anymore, because I'm not one that goes out looking for arguments, but at the same time, I'm like, I can think for myself. I'm not going to sit there and take your shit. Which is ideally what he needs, someone who will sit there and take the shit. Now, I don't know if he's cleaned up his act with regards to not believing in monogamy or marriage, or even if this girl was in any way attached to him. But I looked at her and I went, yeah, because why else would you be hanging around my ex-mother-in-law? You know, you're sitting there thinking, this is my replacement possibly. Because I know his brother, and his brother's got a different type, so I'm like, I don't know. Spanning reality for a moment. But the betrayal in the situation when I didn't attach to him at all. I was actually quite pissed off after I saw it, but it was nothing to do with him or the girl. Betrayal came from the mother-in-law at the time, and I was angry with her. Now, bearing in mind, she had taken his side when he had given me that ultimatum about, I need an open marriage or I'm leaving you. She had taken his side. I suppose it's because of the mother-son thing, I don't know. But in terms of, you know, feminist prose and sticking up for women and all that kind of shit, I felt betrayed at the time. Bearing in mind, I'd known this woman since I was 17. she was in effect meant to be a surrogate mother to me, because from 17 to 35, that's half my life. But she had chosen to take her son's side, despite him clearly doing what seemed like the wrong thing. For me, it seemed like the wrong thing to corner someone and force someone into an ultimatum where they had to do this, otherwise the threat of leaving and abandonment. And he tried to play on my abandonment wounds and hope that I, complied to his requests, or rather demands. Now, that was the first time I ever fucking stood up for myself to him, and he shut himself. But she took his side, and the reason she took his side, I reasoned with myself, is that she cheated on her husband, his father. She normalized it. Eventually she left the husband and married someone else. But she, in her mind, has actually normalized and said it's okay to cheat on people if you're not happy. Rather than actually leave, it's okay to just, get temporary release and, stay with the person even though you're torturing them while you stay with them. Now, that was the assumption my ex-husband had, that I would stay and take the torture. No. Don't be dumb. I'm not like your dad. I will not take that shit. I'm not sunk into any kind of family arrangement. We didn't have kids. All we had was a mortgage, and that's easily dissolved. We didn't even have anything decent on the mortgage. There was no savings in there. We were essentially just renting that house for, 5 years or so, something like that, 6 years. But he had assumed that he'd known me that long, that he could just, pull this wild card and I'd just go with it because I was afraid of losing him. Now, when you look at someone with that level of betrayal and saying, is it really something I'm losing, or am I gaining my freedom because I've lost this cunt? Excuse my French. But he was. And a selfish one at that. What bugged me about that was, in 16 years, this woman who was meant to be my sort of surrogate mother had never asked me herself one-on-one, do you want to go out to a market or a coffee date or anything like that. She never wanted to get to know me on a one-to-one basis. That was the cincher. That was what got me. Because in 17 years it's like she never chose me. And I was meant to be like a daughter to her. So I'm like, you've known me this long. I don't know about you guys, but like in Irish English culture, when you marry, that person marries into the family, you become like a daughter or a son or something like that. It's the extension of the family. You don't just, oh, this is that person's so-and-so and that's it. They become like a sibling to, in-laws, or like a daughter-son. So it felt like at the time that I was just a hanger-onerer. I don't think she ever quite liked me, to be honest. I'm like, but at the same time, I didn't really invest heavily into that family. I did the whole Christmas things and stuff like that, and I tried to get along with them. I got more along with the brother than I did the parent. But, it was a case of, in 16 years, he never asked me to do any of this kind of thing, like hang out with at the market or go for a coffee. But within a span of maximum 4 years, you've got this new replacement who is, you're just hanging out and you're doing all these things. It's like, isn't it wonderful? I'm sitting there going, did the mum choose the replacement instead of me? Like, did she hook them up or something? It's like, I know a person. I'm sitting there going, your mum chose your future wife, didn't she? This is arranged marriage or something like that. Now, this is all speculation, of course, because this chick could be no one. This could just be someone. But she was hanging around in a kind of mother-in-law, daughter-in-law kind of thing. And I'm sitting there thinking, I was pissed at that because I put so much effort into getting to know this woman and trying to hang around with her and keep her happy and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there going, why did I bother? 16 years, I could have been doing something else. At the same time, I look at the kind of person that she is. And if she's willing to cheat on her now ex-husband in order to put herself first, she's willing to betray him. Betraying a daughter-in-law is nothing. It's nothing compared to that. This man she was married to for God knows how long, and she has 2 kids by him, both adults now. And she was willing to throw him under the bus for the sake of saying, I'm not happy. I'm going to cheat on you and make you sit with it because we should get a divorce or at least leave. But, you know, I don't know who maintained that relationship, but it was toxic as fuck. But my now ex-husband has sort of taken that on as normalized and then tried it on me. So I know the scenario and the context in which I'm leaving. It's like, there's nothing to go back to. There's no value there. These people aren't exactly good people. But it was the gesture of 16 years versus maximum 4 years, because I got divorced 4 years. That's if, like, she wasn't someone he was already seeing while he was with me. And then suddenly she's adopted her and taken her on these things. That was the form of betrayal I saw. I'm going, you bitch. 16 years you never accepted me, and now you got this bitch on call. After maybe 3 or 4, if he was honest. Could have been longer if he wasn't. You know, it's so you're gonna face fucked up scenarios like that, where even the people that you've tried to get close to and take on as family are never gonna fucking accept you as family. You know, no matter how much you put in, how much you try, and how much you know, try to cajole to their desires and wills and whims and whatever. These fuckers will never accept you, and that's one of the greatest betrayals you'll ever get. It's when you put in so much effort to try and make these people happy, just the same as I did with my ex-husband, and then still have them not fucking choose you. That's cruel, I find. But that was just my recent example of the day, of the week, and I was angry for that day. I was like, you bitch, fucking bitch. But I saw her and I just blanked her, because I'm like, that's part of my old life. I don't want to go back to it. But then I spent the rest of the day, because I overthink. I'm going, why didn't she ever ask me to go out? Why didn't she ever? It's like, oh, I put all this effort in. She never really. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't think she ever saw me as his wife. I think she saw me as a girlfriend that had carried on for 16 years and was never really worth investing in. Or maybe I just wasn't, you know, kowtowing enough to follow her around. Now, she's the kind of person that likes people giving her attention, fawning, that kind of shit. My ex-husband's the same. He likes the verbal attention, he likes the compliments, he likes the, oh, you're fabulous kind of shit. I honestly think they're both narcissists, because how could someone, you know, either a psychopath, how could someone cheat on someone like that and just not have a conscience? You don't feel bad about it at all, do you? You psychos. But you're never going to make these fuckers happy. And the problem with that is you've got to be able to compartmentalize them and know when to cut them off, because otherwise you will keep trying to make these people happy that just are never going to be happy. And it's simply because, you know, it could be that you're not, you know, pressing the right buttons that they want you to press on them, or you're just not, you know, they might just not like you from the get-go. I don't know why. I never had that explained to me. It was kind of, when my ex-husband ghosted me, she ghosted me. I'm like, okay, so I've just completely been removed, severed from this thing I've been attached to for half my life, so. Okay, that was weird. Even my ex-brother-in-law went away too, so I just didn't. I think I kept in contact with him for a couple of months after separation, and then he just off himself. So it's like, so all of you completely withdrawn from this situation. I've withdrawn from this situation as well. Because at the time I was sitting there trying to battle getting out of debt, homelessness and all that crap. If you listen to the other podcasts, another form of betrayal I had when I came to that was my parents didn't back me up. The only person who was present for me when I was homeless and when I needed help was my brother, and even then it was conditional, because his wife, who's passive aggressive, it was a case of, you can stay with us for now, but when are you leaving? I'm sitting there going, I'm going through a divorce, I'm homeless, I'm in debt. When am I supposed to? How am I supposed to? And it's like, so it's always a case of you're on your own sort of thing from her. Not my brother. My brother was great. But you know, you just sit there and think, how many people have I got around me that I can't rely on, that I can't trust, that are willing to throw me under the bus when it's convenient for them? And it sounds a bit morbid, and you don't want to sort of rag on this nastiness of the situation, because you're not that kind of person yourself. You'd like to think, if someone needed help, I would offer it, definitely. Depending if they, of course, fucked me over first. At the same time, it's like, you wouldn't just leave them hanging because it's inconvenient for you. And that just blew my mind. It's like, when when you go into some serious shit like that, you tend to find out who actually is your friend and who is willing to throw you under a bus to advance. Like my ex-boyfriend with the social group. The people in that social group, the girls definitely didn't like me, so he was willing to sell me out to that. It's like, I'll just treat her like shit. The boys liked that he treated me like shit because he was a player. I'm sitting there going, you're a moron, because this is how you lose a good girl. But he didn't see it because he's just a player. I'm going, you fuckboy. The girls didn't like me because I was just a threat. So, you know, you sit there and think, how many of these fuckers around me are willing to have my back when I need them? And I'm not saying develop a bitterness towards people in general, but once you've seen their actions, once you've seen their true colors, you really do need to you really do not need to start calling them on their shit and start putting up boundaries when you know that they're not going to help the situation. In fact, a lot of those fuckers drained the situation. I had to really step back with a lot of things like that, because it's just a case of, you know, helping the situation. You're making my mental health worse. You're making my whole situation worse. I need to start preserving myself, if only to recover from what they've done, and just pull back. You know, it was horrible, but at the same time, it's like there is a point where people are too nice, and you will be taken advantage of. So, you know, you got to pull your punches, which is horrible, because it's so horrible, isn't it? Because you want to be like the nice person, you want everyone to get along, but with this, we are ingrained in a me first culture where it's I'm going to go first, and it's competitive, and it can be really nasty and cutthroat, especially when someone has something to gain from throwing someone under the bus. I mean, they say, you know, do no harm but take no shit. At the same time, it's like, I would love to just do no harm, but there's so many people that are willing to just do harm and hope no one notices and, you know, fuck someone over. It's not going to help. But at the same time, you do have things like karma where, you know, if you do fuck someone over, it tends to bite them in the ass. Who's this person? Hello. Lollipop people. So just sit back. I mean, don't get vicious with it. I'm not one for revenge. If you've listened to that other podcast about revenge, whereas, you know, you get fucked over and then you go for the throat, there's no point doing that. It's a waste of resources and energy. You might as well just remove yourself from the situation and rebuild somewhere else. It's just find someone who's more deserving of your time, your resources, and go that way. There's no point. It's the nastiness. I just can't understand how, you know, people can be so vindictive. It's nastiness. It's like, how damaged do you have to be in order to do that to someone? It's like, you know, it's like mental cases. You seriously got some trauma stored up there, and you don't mind hurting other people, and you know the consequences of what your actions are, but they do it anyway. It's like, what's seriously going on there? So I'm going to say, because I've got to sum up now because I've got 5 minutes to get into class. If you ever get someone who is willing to betray you, don't copy them. Don't go eye for eye, because it's not helpful. Just remove yourself from the situation and live your life in a better condition without them, knowing that those fuckers will eventually get theirs. Eventually they're going to need someone, and they'll have fucked that many people over, and they're just going to have no one to lean on, because not only do they fuck good people over, but they also tend to surround themselves. Like attracts like. So you got a bunch of people who are all acting like selfish assholes and betraying each other for the sake of pushing themselves forward. But they all tend to stick together as well, because they sort of, you know, birds of a feather flock together. But at the same time, it's like, eventually you're going to need to rely on someone. All the good people will have gone, and you're stuck with the assholes who will throw you under the bus as well. So, you know, it all comes back to them in the end. So the thing is to just remove yourself from the situation. Clearly this isn't where I parked my car, and, you know, get on with your life and try and find like-minded people. That's the only thing you really can do. Rebuild, cut the source of betrayal off, put your boundaries up and say, I'm not being this person, I'm not going to mimic this, I have no intention of copying someone who's clearly this damaged and nasty, and, you know, rebuild and grow somewhere else. That's all you can do. It's a bit trickier when there might be a part of your family. It's clear that I can never rely on my parents, for example, for anything, because they just weren't there when I needed them and never have been. So, you know, my parents were very big on just enough to keep us out of trouble. Just enough to not get DCP involved, not go to prison. Just enoughers. That could be a multitude of things. That could be mental health and everything. I feel that they embarked on a project that they just were not ready for or equipped to deal with, and then called it parenting. You know, it's like, why did you even, I don't know, not thinking and then acting. But bearing in mind, don't drag yourself down. These people are everywhere, yes, but you don't have to be like them. That's why we're given free will. You can look at this poor example of a human and say, that's a horrible example and a way to live. I don't want to do that. I don't get anything out of this, because, you know, these fuckers do enjoy the concept of mind games to fuck people over. Some of them are sick. They think they're better than everyone because they can manipulate others to, you know, fight each other or extract resources from each other, and it's all, oh, I'm smarter than everyone else, and they feel better about themselves for the mind games and the betrayals and all that shit. But in reality, they're just a sad, insecure loser who needs to use mind games rather than actually have the balls to form healthy relationships or connections and actually, you know, progress together. They need to, you know, feel important by hurting other people. It's absurd. They got severe damaged mentality when it comes to other people. I don't know why they do it. I'm gonna leave it there because it is, it's about 8 o'clock. I gotta go into class. I'm hoping you have a fantastic Tuesday. I'm gonna be doing another one, I think, on Friday, but you know, I gotta see what time I've got to use. Take it easy, okay? If anyone's betraying you, just back away slowly and say, this is not my gig, man. It's not my gig. These are not my people. I don't know where my people are. Like, I don't know where my soul tribe is right now, but they're not here. And I'm just like, bye. I'll go that way and go and do some baking or grow some flowers or some shit and crafty stuff. I don't know. I don't like the mind gigs and shit. I feel it's just horrible. I don't get a kick out of it. So take it easy. It's Tuesday, and hopefully you have a fantastic Tuesday, and I'll see you Friday, hopefully.